Good morning. This is the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Monday, July 9th. Looking at fire potential impacts, we still have them today. They center with thunderstorms for the most part. Getting wetter now across eastern and southern areas, either wet or a mix of wet and dry. On the outer periphery, they'll still be more dry than wet lightning for today. That should moisten up even more tomorrow, as these events typically do. But of particular concern will be some strengthening winds across southern and southeastern Idaho, which could overlap some areas that do get lightning with that, and then a continuation of mostly wet or mixed wet and dry lightning for the midweek period, which could spread a little bit more into Nevada. Looking at the past 24 hours, we actually did have some decent rainfall amounts. This second shade of blue is 1/4 to 1/2 inch, pockets of 3/4 of an inch, so a good portion of the eastern half or 2/3 of Utah, especially down south, have received enough wetting rains where fires are no longer growing large. Exceptions will be across northwestern Utah. You can see our lightning activity over the past 24 hours here concentrated in the south, but scatterings up here in the north where there were some new fires. And we can see those new fires in the red. So initial attack is still ramping up pretty good. For the most part, a lot of these fires are not getting very large, but a couple of them with the large red circles are existing fires. Large fires are in the open circles. Observed precipitation over the past 7 days before yesterday was confined mainly to the southern half of Utah down into the Monuments and Arizona Strip area. Not much over Nevada, but they did receive significant wetting rains across parts of eastern Nevada in the last 24 hours. Again, most of that percentile still below normal. Now these ERCs are starting to improve. We had a lot more in the purple down here across the southern 2/3 of Utah, and a lot of these have not taken into account the rains that occurred late yesterday afternoon and yesterday evening. So a lot of these ERCs could, in Utah especially, could be actually a little bit lower. Looking at satellite imagery, we see a lot of that surge of our first monsoonal moisture push of the year into Arizona, into a good portion of Utah, and now pushing up into Nevada under this high pressure, this clockwise flow. So for today, we see that high pressure. We see that the surges of moisture better connected now from the south, pushing into Nevada, pushing into Arizona, and back northwards across Utah and parts of southern Idaho. We do have high risk on the northern edge of the periphery, where there will be a mix of dry and wet strikes, with fuel still critical enough to grow them into large fires. You can see the humidity in these areas where we do have thunderstorms. Instead of having single-digit humidities are anywhere between 15 and 20 or 25%. Where it is driest is outside the edge of the periphery. So the Martin Fire in those areas continue to experience single-digit humidity, as well as some winds from the southwest on there, but winds diminish quite a bit as you go further to the east. These little red circles through here indicate short duration 30-mile-per-hour thunderstorm downdraft, which could occur in some of our existing fires in Utah despite the higher humidity could pose a threat. Now for tomorrow, some of this moisture still in Nevada, and also pushes a bit further north into southeast Idaho, and the precipitation amounts there should not be that heavy. There's also concern for winds pushing in through here, so we've issued high risk for wind, but what will exacerbate that is that this wind will be occurring in areas that recently received lightning. Now some of our winds here, you can see them up here in the Snake River Plain, orange to purples, gusting 30-35 miles per hour. Generally 5 to 15 miles per hour, and variable further south. These donut holes here again are indicative of late afternoon thunderstorm downdrafts, which will be actually more localized. Humidity again driest across northwest Nevada in the single digits, otherwise mid-teens to mid-20% elsewhere. And as we go into Wednesday, still continuing with thunderstorms and moisture pushing into parts of Nevada and into Utah again, so we continue with it. And if you look on the right-hand side, significant fire potential. All of Utah and Nevada used to be brown. You can see how much we've moistened up since then. And again, winds will be fairly light other than thunderstorm downdrafts. Humidity, same story, driest in the northwest, more moist, 20 to 35% in the east. Now looking at precipitation, these are amounts over the next 3 days. You can see just about all of Utah except the far northwest corner, and also at least the eastern half of Nevada getting in those shades of green anywhere from 1/10 of an inch to local amounts of 1/2 inch additional rainfall. In some spots could see locally an inch in some heavier localized thunderstorms. Further down the road, Thursday, that moisture lingers through here across much of Nevada, much of Utah. So again, we'll wet things down. No significant fire threats in those areas. The moisture starts pushing out a little bit on Friday. Saturday, that moisture gets pushed to our south. We start drying out. See this trough of low pressure skirting through the Pacific Northwest into the northern Rockies. Could increase some winds up here in parts of Idaho. And you can see that push of drier air here on day 7, on Sunday. Drier air pushing into Idaho, into far northern Nevada and Utah. But again, it'll be a slow drying process from the recent rains. So rainfall totals here over the entire 7-day period. Pretty significant across at least a good portion of Nevada and Utah and northern Arizona. The 8 to 14 day outlook continues to influence the monsoon here and shows it pushing actually more into Nevada, but also parts into Utah, but staying on the dry side across Idaho and Wyoming, where they'll continue to slowly dry out. Above normal temperatures across the western portion of the Great Basin, closer to normal as you head further to the east. This concludes our briefing. Have a great day.